you're here recording. It's always the most awkward part of any podcast that you record, and I usually make up some complete shite, and I see Martin smirking when I do it. uh, so, any suggestions? I'll be grateful to hear.
We need some good intro music.
What's
Can you
wrong
play
with
any
the,
instruments?
No.
Well, we could do some WWF style introductions for each of us. You know, let's
and do it
make a
live?
show.
If we want to save some money, my dad used to play in the band. He can play something for us.
Okay.
I used to play
Funny,
drums.
you guys saw that we have a customer playing and singing songs about us now.
Oh yeah, trumpet. Was it the trumpet?
It was a trumpet.
Nice.
So
Yeah, I
you
used to
build good software is when people sing songs about it.
Oh, yeah. That one.
NPS score does not measure that
No,
So why was he playing a trumpet about Edify?
because we make him happy.
And that's what he does when you make him happy. When I was in high school, I was part of a band. I played the drums, and we used to do live gigs and things around our local area. The furthest we went to, I don't think this will mean much to US folks, but certainly in the UK, maybe you'll laugh at this. But the furthest we went to was Nottingham. That was like our world tour.
I didn't know that about you.
4 or 5 hour drive from London, so nearly made it.
Almost
But here I am
professional.
instead.
You wanted to be a British rock star, huh?
Yeah, didn't quite make it.
he interned with Liam Gallagher.
That would have been the life. Oasis currently touring. Okay, guys, let's dive into this. So today we're going to discuss. I found this article about how in Dubai developers are bringing construction in-house as demand surges. So we can have a little bit of a discussion about whether you think this is a good idea. Should developers bring the effectively the contracting arm of the construction industry into their operation? I found this article which had a interesting take on the McKinsey productivity curve. I'm pretty sure most people have an opinion on this productivity curve by now. So this was one that I found, which I'm sure will spin some heads. Then we'll have Victor from Barton Mallow on. He heads up their strategy as it relates to technology. And then Dustin, I know you are looking forward to running through the top VCs in the USA, according to the Time magazine.
The definitive source of who is the best VC. Yes.
Exactly.
In construction or outside?
Just general.
Just general.
Period.
In the world.
Period.
Hey, Dustin, would you be able to tease people? Like, what defines the best VC? Do you know what the criteria was?
According to Time, it's how much capital you can raise and how much you haven't deployed.
How much you haven't deployed?
That is how they score it.
Okay.
I would say that the return is what defines the best.
No,
Yes,
that's
Martin.
only 30% of the scoring. You're completely wrong.
So I'm probably
Returns
wrong.
don't matter in venture.
Okay.
To be the best, you have to raise a lot of money, so you get a lot of management fees. You see, that makes you the best.
It makes sense. and the partners get rich.
That's right. I mean, you're not trying to produce wealth for your LPs. You're trying to produce wealth for yourself.
Okay, so we'll find out a little bit more about that later. But
Patrick, are you just laughing over there?
I'm looking forward to that segment. We had so much fun discussing that in WhatsApp, and I told you, man, I'm gonna be quiet as a church mouse.
I'm going to keep saying things during this discussion that you finally chirp in.
You're going to tease the answers out, Patrick, eventually. Let's see if he bites. All right, guys, do you think this is a good idea? So here's the article. Dubai developers bring construction in-house as demand surges. A growing number of major UAE developers are setting up in-house contracting firms after long relying on third-party contractors. The move is aimed at increasing control over construction timelines, costs, and quality standards, and ultimately securing a larger share of the profits. Wow. Fair enough. Yeah, so MR Properties. Martin, you're a bit more familiar with the UAE market, but from what we had discussed before we hit record, they're like the biggest out there.
And I think this is the biggest developer on the planet.
Okay. They developed the Burj Khalifa, and this is the tallest building in the world currently, I believe.
Yes, still.
Yeah. Okay. So they've established Rukn Mirage under its subsidiary Mirage, which effectively is is an in-house contracting unit. So, is this a trend? Will we see this increasing? Do you think among the Western world as well as what's going on in the Middle East, or is this a recipe for disaster? What do you think, Martin? You go.
So I just got some stats. So Imar, on the example of Imar, they 2024 they sold $19 billion of property. I bet majority of this is in Dubai, so that's a lot of property sold. And the fact that developers are bringing contractors in-house, I think it's a feature of a market which has been going up very steadily for several years now. So the average price in Dubai has gone up 100 of the property has gone up 100% since 2020-21.
Wow.
I've got some stats from last month. Dubai property prices raising around 1% a month. Yeah. So I think this is a feature of a fast-growing market. Sales going up 20% year on year. So yeah, it's clearly the market over there is doing very well, and probably that's the reason why the developers want to have more control over quality, timescales. Yeah. The question is what's going to happen in the down market.
Have to fire everyone. Dustin, do you see this? Are you familiar with this in the US?
Yeah, there's quite a few examples of general contractors that are also developers and operators. One that I've worked closely with over the years is a company called Ryan Companies. So they are both a general contractor and a developer, a real estate developer. So it's not unheard of. Typically, it is structured as two different business entities with a shared name, just for diversification. The problem becomes if you are so fully integrated, then can you win work outside of just your parent or just the developer company? And then what happens in a downtime where you're not developing? Do you have enough? Does the GC have enough other customers to support? Otherwise, you have a big OpEx bleed. I mean, it's for similar reasons why general contractors starting to self-perform more trades. They want to capture a bigger market share with more of the profit. With more of the profit becomes more of the risk. And so it's similar business model. I think in good times, it's great. In bad times, it's real bad. But I'm sure the UAE, because of the amount of capital and backlog and foresight at how much they're developing, they can probably get away with bringing more of that in-house and not worrying about the OpEx being expensive because they're always going to have work for them. I think in the US, it's like probably less predictable unless your only source of income, like a Lennar Homes or something like that, where you are just a residential developer, where they'll manage all their own developments. But you never see like a Kaiser hospital saying, hey, we're going to build our Kaisers. That would be insane.
And margins are much smaller in the Western world as well compared to there. So they have more space for these like fluctuations, I guess.
Yeah, I guess it also cuts out like the whole instance of litigation and claims, which I think would be a sigh of relief to a lot of people within the construction industry, because you're not exactly going to sue your own company. Or maybe you are. I'm sure there's been instances in the past where this has happened. But hey, Patrick, how about you? Do you have any opinion on this?
So I don't, in the context of neither UAE/GCC nor construction necessarily specifically. But I started my career in M&A, and so someone back then gave me a really great metaphor that I will never forget, and it has accompanied me on my entire journey so far, about M&A, and typically in M&A, the logic that is taught the most is who's the best owner. It's the best owner logic. And so what makes a best owner in this metaphor, so this person, this is almost 20 years ago, said to me, Patrick, think of it like when you and your neighbor trade toolings, you know, the things we used to do as neighbors, right? So you would go over to your neighbor and you would like, hey, Jim, can I have this tool from you? Can I borrow it, etc. Imagine now it's not borrowing, imagine now it's buying. So, and now you make the question, are you the best owner of that tool or is it Jim? And so it typically comes down to a few critical considerations of what makes you the best owner. One, you might have better skills using the tool. So if you are trained in using that specific tool and Jim is just an amateur in using that tool, might make you a better owner. One. Two, it might be that it's perhaps a power tool and Jim is off grid and you're on grid. And perhaps you have a power outlet that Jim doesn't have and Jim would have to use it just with sheer force and you could actually plug it into the socket. So now you have some distinct advantage in terms of another asset in your business that you can synergize with, right? So that's the second thing. The third thing is maybe neither you nor Jim actually know how to use the tool, but perhaps your partner in your house actually knows how to use the tool. So that's access to talent or access to other relationships that can make you a much better owner in using the tool. And the fourth one is maybe you have better protocols, how to use it. So if it's, for example, a safety relevant tool, and it's quite dangerous to use it, and Jim basically has no safety switch or whatever. Exactly, but you have like a good governance of how to operate, etc. That might also make you the more productive and thus best owner with that tool. And so M&A, excuse me, M&A is exactly like that. So what makes you truly the better owner? And so in this example, it would have to be one of those considerations that makes you think that. Now, there's an additional one when you verticalize in construction asset classes. Think, for example, data centers. If you can build a very repeatable pipeline of exactly the same building type, that in itself can make you a really great owner of a contractor business, because it will, with that predictability of demand, it will allow you to standardize that a standalone contractor will oftentimes, unless they are hyper verticalized, not be able to do. It could be any of those things, quite honestly, but on the other hand, most industries actually try to outsource the utilization risk and not insource the utilization risk the way MR would be doing it here. So I would need a very deep dive to understand what makes you the best owner here. And if it's not really a repeatable pipeline of exactly the same type of building.
They do the same, exactly.
Then I would have to say that needs to be some very sophisticated and yet simple to execute logic.
Is Amar's business model, they build it and sell it, or is it build it and operate lease?
They build it, they sell it, and then they operate.
Operate with HOA fees and stuff like that?
Yes, it's not HOA like in the US, but how is it called? Maintenance fees.
Yeah, I also think it's a little business model dependent. Like if you take the home builders, they almost develop all of their own homes. And the reason being is they're trying to sell those. So they want to maximize the profit margins per transaction. But if you're building an asset where you're going to have recurring revenue long-term, then the development cost, the marginal fees that you're going to make on the GC, like that 3%, is less consequential in your overall profit margin. So that's why I don't see a lot of the long-term asset holders, this is Kaiser, for example, going, I need to make 3% on the construction build. They don't. They need to get a hospital up and running to offload that risk, because that hospital is an asset that's going to be around for the next 50 years.
My guess is over there, it's not 3%, it's more probably 20 than 3% they are thinking of.
Oh, well, that's also true. If the profit margins are 20% for a GC in Dubai or the UAE, then yeah.
And do you know if they are buying contractors in-house or they are creating them from scratch?
The four major home builders in America it's all in-house, and it's been that way for a while.
Yeah, it doesn't actually say mine on the article, but it just says are setting up in-house contracting firms.
I mean, a lot of the insourcing of capabilities that you would typically have seen successful in our space, I would bet you practically all of them have to do with standardization. That you bundle so much demand and you're better owner because you're better at standardizing and then prescribing that it becomes easier to then basically lift that standardization into a contracting business. And I think the Toll Brothers, Lennar that you mentioned, Dustin, I mean, in the end, yes, every project has its own unique floor plans, but overall, it's a standardized business.
That's right.
You wouldn't all of a sudden start building, whatever 10-story multifamily homes just because you feel like it. So I would bet you it's almost always standardization. I mean, that's why Amazon was the greatest in actually first building AWS, because they were fucking great at process standardization when everyone else was not.
Yeah, but even all the hyperscalers, so Amazon, Oracle, Meta, Microsoft, Google, OpenAI, they're still almost entirely reliant on the general contractors to actually put the work in place. They have construction management teams, but I also think one of the constraints is geographically, many of these projects are all over the country, and they just don't want to invest in like moving the actual executors around all the time.
So there's that, and there's a big economy that has actually developed in building data centers when you actually don't have tenants yet, and assuming that kind of a risk. I mean, that's how Equinix became extremely valuable. AirTrunk out of Aussie in Asia. AirTrunk, in case for all of you who don't know, they actually did a pre-seed round in somewhere around 2016 or 2017 of 400 million pre-revenue. That was the pre-seed round. It has become one of the most successful cases in that entire space. And again, you're basically taking the land, you're standardizing the entire asset class, you're putting it in place, and then people subscribe to, okay, I'm actually going to rent it from you. Standardization.
Yeah, in the in the Mar case, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom apartments is exactly the same in every single building they are currently built or have been building. And the buildings are every single one very similar, just the cladding slightly different. But the layout is pretty much the same. So it's very, very standardized.
That allows them to control the supply chain of all their finishes and direct source all the materials. So it's very analogous to what home builders do.
There's even another. I don't know if we should advertise these companies. There's another the developer in Dubai called Shoba, and they have in-house builders. They have in-house factories which produce every single piece of what they install within these buildings.
Are any of them your client, Martin?
No, I'm their client.
You're their client.
Interesting. Okay, leave that to the imagination. So this is some more stats on the Dubai market here. Property launches rose 83% in 2024. The number of Dubai developers by year. So in 2020, there was around about 625 developers, say. 4 years later, 2024, 1,200. So the number of developers almost doubled during that period. Apparently, a major struggle for the developers there is actually finding or getting bids from contractors to do the work. So the developer here, Samana developer, said they used to get 25 or 30 contractors bidding for a project, and today you get hardly 2 or 3.
Not surprised.
Yeah.
In their case.
And maybe some interesting stats about how much cash these developers hold. Anyone want to have a guess how much cash is in the bank of MR? Was it the highest developer? The biggest developer there?
$70 billion.
I'm assuming they're highly leveraged, so I'd be more interested in their assets to liabilities. So I have no idea what their portfolio looks like.
In that region, I'm not taking guesses just because the capitalization of these businesses can sometimes come from also completely different sources. Yeah. So,
Martin's the only one who's got bollocks to guess. Okay, so MR, they have 30.5 billion in dirhams in the bank.
Oh, dirhams.
Yeah.
That's like $10 billion.
Okay, Damak, 17, and then there's some below him. Bingati, Alra, Sabah, Soba, I think Martin, you mentioned them. Omniat, right between 2 and 3.5 million.
I'd be curious their financing structures on like there's developments. Can they just get government loans that are basically?
Well, Imar is partially owned by the government. Those ones.
Okay, so their bank account's quite large. It just doesn't show up on the balance sheet.
It's group consolidated. Yes, and the group is the country.
Yeah.
It's interesting market for sure.
Interesting market. Okay. Shall we move on to this? Hands up. Let me just share my screen quickly, because everyone has to see this. I'm almost certain that everyone has already seen this. And if you haven't already seen this graph, then please don't put it in your next pitch deck. Okay. Why am I showing you this?
To prove that construction productivity sucks. And we are here to fix it.
Or by talking about it.
By talking about it.
You know,
anyone?
If I've seen graphs and mini graphs like this, I would always love them to normalize this data for the amount of safety that we've executed, or normalize it for I forget the stat for lost time or deaths or things like that. Because if we talked about productivity per number of deaths in construction in the U.S., I think it would show that we are more productive relative to the number of incidents we actually have.
That's an interesting stat to think about. Patrick, what's your opinions on such a graph? How many times have you seen this in the pitch deck?
Actually, this specific one, now that you show it, I don't think I've seen this one, because look at the top definition here. So McKinsey, sorry, when is this study from? That
McKinsey company.
20...
No, when?
Oh, sorry.
Oh,
2005, it says, right?
No, the real date.
Oh, no, that's the real.
Well, I guess here somewhere, right? 2011, maybe? I don't know exactly.
Okay, because I'm pointing out now that you actually show it. Sorry, we didn't do this in the brief, but I noticed it. So here it actually speaks of value added per worker. The famous statistic that most of us will know is actually a different one. So the famous statistic that everyone knows is productivity defined as output per worker hour in the industry. So it's a slightly different one. So when you ask me how often have I seen this, I literally can say none, not yet.
Oh, we've had a right curveball thrown in here then.
That's fair.
Okay, so let me follow up as to why I asked you this, because I came across this. It's a presentation by someone, Dave Hettinger from Entropy Build, who put together. It's discussion worthy, so we can talk about this. But and so in this chart shows that as productivity being defined by gross value added per worker. And if you compare the two lines here, you'll see construction like massively lags behind manufacturing, according to this graph here, 1.7x. But what it doesn't consider is that some of the large manufacturing companies, Toyota, Volkswagen, etc., the value of these companies actually derives from intangible assets like research and development, patents, trademarks, software, brand equity, and so on and so forth, which are huge value multipliers and have very little to do with hour-to-hour efficiency of the physical labor. Whereas construction, value created on site, project by project, very little investment in creating scalable and intangible assets. So it doesn't just, I guess it's not showing that that construction is bad at building things. It just shows that the construction business model hasn't focused in creating, monetizing intellectual property in the same way that manufacturing sector has. And the prediction that this presentation comes up with is that the most valuable and successful construction companies of the next decade will be the ones that stop obsessing over incremental improvements in on-site labor efficiency and start a deliberate strategy of building scalable, intangible assets such as software platforms, patented modular building systems, digital delivery processes, trusted brands, and so on and so forth.
Let me just show what the original chart looks like. And I think McKinsey actually had that later. So this is what the original one is, if you guys are seeing it. So like I said, it was actually the gross value added per hour worked, so not per worker.
Patrick, can you zoom a bit?
Oh, yeah, sure. Sorry, I think it's relatively, here you go.
There you go.
per hour worked, and that's the one that they've been using since. Actually, I think this one is already old, etc. So just pointing out the difference in the source data used here. Also weird that it cut off in 2012, I think.
To the question, maybe, or the argument that the Dave is presenting here. What do you think, and have you seen construction companies investing more in intangible assets like their brand, perhaps venture arms, software, so on and so forth? And do you think that this is a driver for longer term value?
I don't think so.
Why not?
Why not? I don't know. That maybe I'm too biased being in this industry, and I really struggle to see it being more cool, if that's what the definition of the brand is, to like gain some value somehow by creating lots of intangible stuff. You said. Yeah,
Yes.
so this is the industry of outcomes rather than and the ticket value to purchase the end product is probably the highest everyone purchasing this product will ever commit to. So it's not a consumer product, the output of construction. Well, it is, but it's not like some subscription you're paying for $20 for. So I really struggle to see it.
I'm struggling to see an apples comparison if they're equating manufacturing and all the value that those products bring to the worker productivity. Where if construction is the ones building the facilities, then how are they not getting credit for creating the facilities? It seems like
the conclusion.
A lot of manufacturing is upstream. It's not that the manufacturing is always brand associated. You will have suppliers to brands.
Yeah, you're contract manufacturing for a lot of people. I think that the industry is what the industry is, and I think that we should normalize around. There's a lot of elevated cost inherent in the system with the bureaucracies of entitlements, permitting, safety regulations, and all of these other things that actually make the industry harder to develop. Try to do inspections. You ever try to build a hospital? Go through OSHPD inspections and see how long and how much it can delay the actual creation of the facility. And so I don't know how you normalize for that. We want higher bars and higher bars on safety. And then you have to equate for the amount of litigation. I mean, we're called contractors for a reason. Contracts are meant to be disputed. So,
for me, oh, sorry.
I don't think that our ability to put work in place is getting worse over time. I would suspect if we could do a normalized comparison, we are better at putting work in place now than ever before. But that normalized comparison seems impossible to me.
Patrick?
I mean, actually, I remember that chart was showing a lot more than just manufacturing and construction. And so I got suspicious a little bit that is again cherry picked. You know what's missing on that chart? Agriculture. Agriculture is actually double the increase than manufacturing on that chart. So whoever created the chart deliberately let it out or left it out in order to create some kind of narrative. So is agriculture now driven by intangible assets that productivity increase? No. Probably not.
Oh,
look,
my kids love going to the farm.
Yeah, I mean, is it a branded farm? So I think for me, that wouldn't be the conclusion that I would draw from that data, to be quite honest. It's automation and nothing else.
There's one thing that comes to my head. So branded bags, for example, the cost to create some of them, let's call it X, and the cost of sale or the price of sale, it can be 30X, for example.
Yes.
Yeah. So try to build a home for X and try to sell it for 30X. That's impossible to do it. There is this concept of, for example, speaking of UAE, there is this concept of branded residences, which are very popular right now. So there's Armani residences or this kind of stuff. And people actually add extra value because it is branded residence, branded by.
Can you get fake ones in like the next Emirate?
Yeah, all jewelry residences we can do probably.
Martin, business is really good if these are the residents you're looking at.
No, I only heard of those. Only heard
He
of
prefers Chanel residences.
my wife would probably.
Just
Yeah.
don't.
I just
ever
don't see
open
construction going
Hermes-
this way.
A Hermes at a residence.
I'm sure there is.
Oh, I hate that store. That store needs to die.
Mine,
It's
to
the
your
most
point though,
pretentious store in the world. Sorry.
you do have components within a house which they probably do mark. I don't know, 30x maybe is a slight exaggeration, but certainly a significant amount. Like over here in UK, in luxury residencies, there's certain brands of kitchen that people will pull out the credit card for and pay because it's a brand and it's hand manufactured in UK and so on and so forth. So whether this correlates direct to the construction costs, I suppose within that sector, yes, it does.
Well, what I know is it doesn't have anything to do with productivity. It only has to do with the inflated value based on the name.
Yes, you're right. Oh. Okay.
Martin, what's the markup on cocaine? Source to street.
That's a good
You're
question.
asking a professional user.
How do I figure it out? I thought we would be talking business after that.
I mean, quick Google search, but 50 to 100x easily.
Wow.
I would say that's not brand, but to your
Experience.
point,
That's
Could
experience.
be.
That's experience. I guess.
But you definitely own the intangible asset of moving it across the border, distribution channel, supply chain. So if you want to declare that an intangible asset, then maybe the logic holds here. I don't know.
Did you just look that up, Patrick? Or
Well, I'm also Narcos. The Narcos
Okay.
series is. I also like that, but yes, I did look it up.
He's washing his money through VC. So
Ah.
there's gonna be
Yeah,
a new...
that would be a great money laundering machine. Just waiting
Well.
12 years until you get it back, right?
Yeah, maybe a bit long, but yeah, maybe we'll see a few app builders in the portfolio coming through, or Patrick, you will be the next star on your favorite show, Ozark.
It's not my favorite show, but it's a very good show.
Okay, we have like 3 minutes till Victor comes in. Is there any like quick fire facts you want to share? Anyone?
Quick facts.
Should we pick one from the Glenigan report, which we'll go to
What's the
later?
net worth of the most successful cartel leader in Mexico? Any of you know?
Right now?
I only know
El
peak
Chapo?
prices.
Oh,
I think Chapo was actually not the most worthy one. I think the most worthy one was Amadou Fuentes from the Juarez cartel. Take a guess how much he was
40
worth.
billion.
I would say again 70.
70.
Yeah, 50.
I mean, Wikipedia always says 30, but he was only 4 years in business.
Whoa.
Oh, the rocket fuel.
And that's cash. Like, there's no brand value they're applying. That's just
No.
saying
Yeah.
liquid.
No stops.
Well, he had an airplane fleet that was
When
very
you
valuable.
And when I mean liquid, I mean it's like sitting physically in a vault.
Very liquid.
Yeah, it was like Pablo Escobar. He had to.
Also,
he was, like,
25, I
burning-
think, is what people say.
And
this
when?
was
The when?
80s.
90s or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
This was
So
80s.
it is at least 3 times more than 3 times more now. Yeah, would be.
And he was actually his value was depreciating because rats were eating through the cash
Yeah.
that he held as well. And didn't they run out of like rubber bands or something?
Yeah.
Like a demand for rubber bands going through the
Yeah.
roof.
I watched
Like,
that as well.
Oh God.
That's like
Yeah.
the ultimate inflation. Rats eating your cash. Rather than it just sitting in the bank. Inflation's just
Yeah,
running
what
3%.
happens? You build a tech company, you have a successful exit, but did rats eat your cash? Just quickly before Victor comes, according to the executive summary of this report that Martin, you shared with us from Glenigan, who provide They are a data company which provide. I'm very oversimplifying here, but I think they produce leads for construction companies. Martin, is that right? Scan the planning portal,
Yes.
and then you can buy leads from the website. This is UK relevant, so it says 36% decline in detailed planning approvals compared to the previous year, 39% decrease in main contract awards compared to the previous year, and 17% decrease in project starts compared to the previous year in the UK. Scary times.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Why?
Who would you say is the top contractor in the UK? I'm testing your guys' UK knowledge now.
Top contractor?
Top by what? What's the measure?
Of money, of course. The revenue. How else?
Management
brand
fees?
equity.
Management fees.
Is it the Irish company?
Oh, I just looked it up.
I'm not sure.
Don't tell an Irish that they're part of the UK.
Oh,
Kia, apparently.
Kia.
I think they do a lot of civil work. Okay, Victor
It's only
is here.
$2.5 billion pounds. That's a little, right?
Yeah,
Compared to
yeah,
overseas.
that's not right. I'm sure
folks.
Balfour Beatty is like over.
Yeah,
10.
Balfour Beatty does more than that globally for sure, and they're headquartered
UK
in
revenue
India.
is, I think 10 billion maybe in the UK. Balfour Beatty. Anyway, Victor's here. Hey, Victor. Oh,
He must be far.
he must
be
be
in the
flying
UK.
in. Here he is, Victor.
Hey, Victor.
Hey, gentlemen.
You are live. How are you doing?
Doing well. How are you guys?
We are
Pretty good.
good. We've just been talking about. Okay, maybe this is like a very bad way to introduce you because actually, if you get it right, then it's a very good way. Who in August 2024 to July 2025, who was the #1 contractor in the UK according to this data source we have? I'm really making this difficult for you.
I'll be honest, I don't know my UK contractors, so I don't have a good answer for that.
Nah, you're good. Don't worry. It was an impossible one. Hey, Victor. Yeah, welcome. So, Victor, could you tell us a little bit, like, what is going on at Barton Mello? Maybe you could tell us, like, what Barton Mello
Strategy
give us
is.
a bit of a landscape. Like, what projects are you mostly working on at the minute? Rough size of the company, so people understand the context
we'll do
we
a
dive into.
quick highlight.
Yeah.
So Barton Mallow, for folks that don't know, Barton Mallow is a top 30 general contractor in the U.S. We do a lot of manufacturing work, a lot of industrial work, a lot of energy work. So think about nat gas plants, renewables, things like that. Industrial work, think about new manufacturing for various folks. That could be steel mills, could be battery manufacturing, etc. We do a lot of sports work, collegiate work, and professional. So Jacksonville Stadium, or for the Jaguars down in Florida, Penn State, all that fun stuff. So that's the company in a nutshell. We're about a $5 billion organization annually. So fairly large. Again, not Turner, but fairly large. That's Barton Mallow in a nutshell.
Very nice. Great description. Okay.
Victor, the more important question is, how profitable are you?
Well,
That's a
obviously
good
I
question.
can't share the numbers, but we business is good, right? Business is good.
Okay.
That's what we like to hear.
What about you, Patrick?
Yeah.
Fair enough. I don't think we publish our numbers currently. So
Are rats eating for your cash?
sorry, Victor, that's a reference that we just discussed the net worth of Pablo Escobar at its height. So and we realized rats ate through his cash.
Don't ask how a construction technology podcast got there, but it did.
Side hustles.
Okay, yeah, Victor. So, okay, if based on what you see at Barton Mello, if you were building a technology product within construction industry, what would it be?
What would it be? Am I only limited to one?
Nah, you can.
All right. Well, in that case, there's a whole bunch of them I would build. I mean, construction has a ton of opportunities in it. One, I would try to apply more manufacturing capacity and ideas to the construction industry. Like, how do you more industrialize it to add uniformity? I think the dynamic that we have with one-off special projects is great for end users, but that makes construction more complicated. And we see that in a bunch of different avenues. But I think adding more of a manufacturing capacity, adding more of those lessons learned into construction will have a lot of dividends to how we build. That's part one. Two is financial services. I think the way that we think about payments and lending and rails and all that fun stuff is should be rethought. Um, there's a lot of misaligned incentives between various folks in the business, so there's a huge opportunity there to try to align those. None of these are like, I don't know. We could talk about specific examples, but these are high level concepts. Those are the top two, and I think lastly, there's this dynamic of like in the US right now we have a huge AI and data center boom and all that fun stuff, and I think a lot of people are asking questions around like, well, how are we going to power all of those? I think specific to us, like again, we do a lot of the energy work, we do a lot of renewables, a lot of nat gas power plants, and so how do we think about that dynamic? It takes a while to build some of these large facilities, so how do we shorten the timeline through that?
Interesting.
And which part of like Bartolomeo's strategy you are kind of in charge or looking at? Like what's the strategy?
Yeah, I mean the strategy behind the strategy is you got to figure out the strategy. I think part of it is like my job specifically is I work and support various organizations, various departments within Barton Mallow. I wouldn't say I'm charged like, hey, go deliver X. It's more so how do you think about what is in market today, what should be in market tomorrow, what are our competitors doing, what do our clients care about, how do you bridge the gap between those, how do you apply those to specific domains? And so when you have those conversations with either operational leaders, project delivery folks, whomever, you have a more informed conversation. So again, like an example of that would be, hey, we noticed that top 10 of our peers are doing X, we're doing Y. Why is that? How do we bridge the gap? And that could be, hey, that could be a differentiator for us when we go pitch ourselves against someone else, or it could be, hey, that's an opportunity for us, or maybe that's also an opportunity for us to say we're ahead of the market in some domain. So that's my job is go a lot of market research where it relates to contractors, clients, and people that we serve, and then again on the subcontractor and our trade partner side, so the full ecosystem.
Interesting. Hey, Martin, I would have thought after 3.5 years of podcasting, you'd have learned how to turn your phone on silent during a show.
Still not. Sorry.
Mar offering him a contract.
Armani property.
Free apartment.
His offer was accepted.
I'll post you guys.
Dustin, you have anything for Victor on the what he said?
Yeah,
so far?
Victor. So I see a lot of contractors. Obviously, I talk to almost every contractor in the U.S. I see a lot of contractors wanting to have a data strategy to understand costs from pre-con, costs the first time they're talking to clients, all the way through the design, all the design phases to get to a GMP, and then how that flows through all the way to the final cost of construction. How is Barton Mallow thinking to actually get visibility from idea all the way through turnover? Yeah. What is your guys' data strategy?
That is a great question. A little bit loaded one, but we'll answer it. I think there's a couple things.
You think it's loaded?
Question. Yeah, I mean, there's questions nested in the question. So number one is like, all right, well, what is the current landscape of the data strategy today? Like, what are we actually doing? Are we actually collecting this information? And if so, what does that mean? And then downstream of that is like, how are we actually going to use it to affect our business? So number one, to that point, we have a data strategy specifically around that. How are we tracking costs from pre-con? I think a lot of people know, like in this business, you go through the RFP process, you develop that relationship, you start putting a price to something. So you want to be able to track those costs, and that will inform downstream your overall profit margin for that job. So for us, that means we need to have an idea. So tracking pre-con, those efforts related to that, that's part one. As it relates to project delivery, the actual handoff, you know as well as I do that there's a lot of context that gets missed there that actually drives up the cost during construction because of the missing context. So for us, is how do we more tightly integrate pre-con to construction, and specifically to your question around the data piece. Number one, are we capturing the right information up front? Number two, are we actually translating it in a manner that makes sense for delivery? Specifically to the costs around that, this could be, obviously labor, but that also translates to project costs. Like how are we actually tracking against what was originally either, sketch and SD all the way through, depending on the contract type, target value design or design build, like whatever. are we actually tracking that in an appropriate manner? Earlier, I mentioned a question about, project specific dynamics within the industry versus not. Being able to then say, hey, we did this on the last job and this applies here, that's fuzzy. So you got to go back and redo some of that stuff. There's a real cost born from that. So then again, if we had this perfect scenario where we had things more productized, we had things more pick them off the shelf and we can quickly price it, that would be advantageous to us. So to answer your question, what's our strategy behind it? It's going to be combining each of those elements. So can we get better data? Can we make sure the handoffs are better between different teams? Can we actually put price to numbers on each of these things in a way that makes sense? And then eventually at the end, when the job's done and you're doing your end of year bookkeeping, hopefully you have a more holistic approach to, hey, this is what our actual profit margins were. This is what the fee actually was when we booked it. This is what it was when we actually completed it. These are all the ancillary services according to that, et cetera, et cetera. So that's our strategy in a nutshell. Again, a bit of an answer that's long-winded, but it really is holistic across the board. As you know, you can't just have a pre-con strategy without project delivery. You can't have project delivery without pre-con. It really has to be soup to nuts.
Nice.
That triggered a question. Victor, I recently heard from a team I work with who's serving general contractors, hey, our customers can't even define what a project is. And when I heard that, that was absolutely crazy. And I double clicked on that. Just, when they said that to me, it sounded almost like a flippant off the cuff comment. But then I double clicked on that and they said, no, literally 8 different customers cannot define internally what a project is. And one customer had 8 different definitions. And I was like, how can that be? One, that's your business, right? Yeah. So the project is the equivalent of, in a manufacturing business, the order. Okay. 2, a project in like general management literature would be defined as it has a specific start date, it has a specific end date, it has a budget to it, and resources allocated, etc. But then they told me, well, it actually creates a lot of problems. So the reason why it isn't there, it's because it's complex, and that creates a lot of problems because the pre-construction team actually doesn't know, hey, what am I defined to hand over to the next stage? Because we can't even define on what is the scope, etc. of the project. So let me stop here. I'm just curious, when you hear me say this, like what triggers that with you?
Yeah, at first I was like, that sounds kind of wild. And then as you go through the examples, it's 100% true. Like in pre-con, maybe this is too much detail, but like for a lot of folks, right? Like you start the job, you start tracking costs in pre-con, you had a job number for that. Then you transition to the real job, quote unquote, you get shovels in the ground, you get a different job number. It's all one project, but they're different job numbers. So to your point, well, we built this school. What's the job? What's the project? I couldn't tell you. Then you drill that down to the question underneath that. It's like, well, when did you start? It's like, well, what's the start date? Is the start date when you got notice to proceed? Is the start date when you started putting costs together? Is the start date when shovels in the ground? What's the end date? Is that when you close the books? When someone left? Like, I don't know. And so, like, yeah, it sounds flippant, but unless you're in the industry, like, there's so many different definitions of the same thing. It's madness. It's madness.
Why would that be relevant to establish like one set of factors that define the project? Is it because, Patrick, from your point, from the person you spoke with, from their point of view, that would be easier to sell the product, or there was some different circumstances?
So for them, for that company, it was more off the cuff comment that was ancillary to what they were doing. I just picked up on it because I found it crazy. So for if you're asking specifically, hey, what is the implication for the person I spoke to? The implication was none.
Well, I think you get different answers from different people. If the CEO will be speaking about what's the project for us, they would say that's the answer, and down the chain you will have different answers to it.
Well, Martin, this is actually a systemic problem. It's not Bartomalo is not the only one. This is a systemic problem, and the problem originates because you have different. It starts in pre-con, obviously, because you have a CRM tool that might track an opportunity. Then you have an estimating tool that was never built to manage costs along a process, which is this design process to finally get to GMP. Most contractors, if you ask them to actually tell you how much work are you estimating in pre-con, there is no one true number, because you'll have your Bartomalo currently uses WinEst. They'll have different versions of a WinEst estimate that they try to label on, like, this is this design milestone, but now you're trying to trust naming conventions, and if no one follows it, then it's a disaster. And it's not just you. I mean, every contractor's in this thing. And so you end up with Precon has a huge volume, but getting to a true source number of how much they're actually looking at and pursuing is quite challenging across a company as vast as Barn & Mallow or the other industry titans. And so you actually, I mean, this is what Edify is working on, is giving you true visibility on what a project costs at any point in time and tracking that evolution from idea to concept so that you actually know what projects are in what stage across your entire portfolio.
Yeah. One other thing I'll add to that too, between the two of you, Martin and Patrick, you asked a question about like standardization. Like, is there an opportunity here? And the reality is, like, AIA documents tried to standardize this, but again, like, no two people even agree on what that means. And so, like, there is an opportunity to up-level that in the new age using software. I just don't know that anyone's done that yet. Maybe that's Edify in the future. I don't know, starting with Precon. But I think the opportunity to standardize definitions in construction, like, it just doesn't exist.
Wait.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many things that saying standardized, so many things that could encapsulate, right? Like, are we talking about standardization of simply uniform master format and bid package or trade package? Like, I talk to contractors and they get offended because we call it bid package. They want to call it trade package. So, like, the things that we query over is hysterical.
On the Precon side, from my experience, like when I used to work on site in Skanska, where I ended 8 years ago, there was no like a pre-construction team there. Back in Poland, there was if we were on a project and there was bidding process happening in the same department, we were just given some drawings to do some schedules, trying to figure it out. Maybe I don't know actually how was the trend right now. Are there like specific pre-construction teams who are only dealing with like pre-construction, or this is passed from one team to another from different teams, whoever has time to do it?
Yeah, I mean, I can give my perspective. At Barn & Mallow, we have certain teams that do that, but I think, every job is different. Every company is different. Dustin may have a better perspective just because he talks to different companies all the time. But yeah, I mean, I would say that happens for sure. And then at the far end of the spectrum, you have someone, I don't know, it's all over the place. Dustin,
Yeah.
sure.
It's
Because
totally
if
all
this
over the
still
place.
happens, then that I can understand why it's messy. Because people who are doing it right
Different
now,
teams,
they won't be
having it.
responsible for the delivery of the product. So they kind
It
of.
definitely
I'm not saying
works
that.
like this in the UK.
Yeah.
There's pre-construction teams, then construction teams.
I think that, Victor, tell me if you agree. I think that the hierarchy and setup for many of these businesses when design, bid, build was so much more prevalent. And now you have, target value design, you have design build. And so when you have these more collaborative sort of contract structures, the ideal state is, you start with pre-con, but you are bringing in the executors earlier and earlier so that they're working with the pre-con teams, and it's more like a gradual progression over.
That's right.
I think that's
the
one.
formula. I think you'll see more and more of those types of contracts in the industry for that reason. I think the idea of like, we're just going to go design something for 6 months and then have a hard bid and then hand that off to the next team. Like that, again, a lot of context gets missed. That's where you see a lot of change orders. You see a lot of escalating costs. Like, you need to bring those folks in earlier and earlier to have a more informed discussion.
I remember it was such a waste of time.
Yeah, I mean, you should have the specialist input of the person who's going to be installing this thing.
No, 100%.
Maybe giving you some advice about how you should also design this thing.
Yeah, and I will say
Victor,
one other thing too. On the small side of that, you get smaller contractors that, hey, if you're an estimator, you're also going to be the PM, and like that's the dynamic of how they do it to try to work around that.
Hey, Victor. So we have a lot of startup out there that watch this. What's the best way to like get Barn & Mallow to look at you? Do you guys have a process?
Yeah, we have a full team.
Because there's so many. I'm sure you get like a million like cold emails.
Speak to Victor.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you guys have my contact info, but yeah, we have a full team dedicated to business transformation, we call it. So some folks dedicated strictly on, hey, let's get a pilot in, let's find the right team. Some folks dedicated to, we have an innovation framework of like basically short-term, medium, long-term, and folks dedicated to each of those. So depending on which of those three buckets, again, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to connect you with the right folks internally, but we do have a full-fledged team dedicated to innovation/business transformation. Let's just get a pilot. Let's get you on site. Let's find the right teams depending on your solution.
Awesome.
One last from me. What recent technologies did you guys adopted or looked at?
I'll tell you one that's
Edify?
had a lot of good success within the organization, and that's Clear Story. We love those guys. I think again, a lot of visibility into change orders, a lot of visibility into project costs and how that escalates. It's an
Cameron's
industry-wide
great.
challenge. Yeah. I mean that it's gangbusters, like true product success for us, true product market fit. I think for that scenario in that company. Yeah, Clear Story has been a great example of that.
Shout out to Clear Story. I've also heard very positive things for the industry too. So.
Yeah,
Cool,
Cameron
Victor.
was a GC before he started that.
I think that helps. You have empathy for the builders, right? So
Yeah, 100%. What's your take
Victor.
on real quick, Victor? What's your take on? I see a lot of AEC tech startups that have no experience in construction as part of the founding team.
Depends on the solution. It really does, because I think part of it is like, I don't want to name names, but there are some solutions out there that have great technical background, and you do need that. I think that there's an issue, not an issue, but there's a dynamic in construction tech or AEC writ large, whereby you have folks that did the job previously, they know the products are really well, but they may not necessarily be the best builder. Or the flip side is like, hey, we know how to build great tech. We did this at really like large tech, or name your how to startup, but they don't know the nuances of construction. Again, there's opportunities here. People see that. But I think you either need to pair the two together, or if you're just going to focus on the technology, go hire experts that do nothing but give you feedback. Like they just sit there and all day they just work with their product teams. They're paired 1-2 or 1A, 1B. That's all they do. Like they offer up expertise. So what's my take? I think it depends on the product you're delivering. It really does. Like I know this isn't, I'm not the guest of the show here, but there's so much that we can unpack just in that one question of like, how do you approach that? What's the right level of engagement between the two? How do you think about design partners if you're not going to do that? Like there's so many different paths. So you really need to know what are your real strengths. And if you can pair that up with someone else that complements those, that's going to be your winning formula.
Very, very insightful. Victor, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for the time, gentlemen.
Best of luck with things there.
Thank you, Victor.
Take care, guys. Bye.
Bye.
Very good.
What's your thoughts, Dustin?
He's right. There is some parts of the tech stack that you could just be really great technical founders, but as soon as like you're doing something that's really interacting with the doers of the space, then I think that the DNA of the company would be best suited with that hybrid model of someone who understands the space and can create a vision of where it goes long term, and someone who can build the product. What I see with founders that don't come from the space is they, through customers, find an acute problem, but then they're always talking to customers, and customers are dictating their product roadmap, and they don't have a way to create a North Star and just continue to progress forward.
Okay,
they can just get bogged down with customer feedback.
Patrick, and what's your take on this? I know you invested in companies which. Are you muted?
I'm not.
I'll mute you. Go on.
Sorry, can you hear me again?
Yeah.
So look, let me start like this. Depends on what you define as your success, right? So if you define your success as I'm gonna have a real business, and perhaps that real business becomes a cash flow engine or gets sold for 100 million, I think your best chances are actually coming with insider barn smell, understanding it better, having a better track record, nuanced insight. I love non-obvious insights, as you guys know, and all of that will typically be very well served if you have that kind of a pedigree as part of your starting team. Now, if you define success, though, as I'm going to build the most unreasonable outcome, I think it doesn't matter either way. I think it then actually depends on completely different traits, both in market and opportunity and in the founder. We call it being unreasonable here within Fundamental, and that has nothing to do with where you come from in terms of business experience. It has to do with a lot of other things that have shaped you as a person, formative years after formative years. Not to get into that. I don't want to discuss founder taste right now, but since you asked, I think if your definition of success is that, honestly, it will depend on a few other things rather than what you did in your past in terms of business.
Nice. Shall we move on to the main event?
What's the main event?
We have a main event?
We have a main event. Hold on.
I think my internet is getting unstable.
What's for the first course?
Well, We can go through the 100 best podcasts of all time before if you want, but we did say we were going to go through the America's top venture capital firms in 2025. So before we reveal the number one, let me just do this quickly.
Nice.
Any guesses?
I know the answer, but I'm not that shocked about it.
Okay, I will share screen. We can have some fun with this. Okay, dokey.
The 100 best podcasts of all time.
Yeah, we'll go there after.
You know, it'd
I'm
be
excited to see number
fun
one.
is me. I could list how many of these I've heard no from in my past.
Okay,
Oh.
let's go. So let's riff the names, the top 10, okay? From 1 to 10. Go. Axel, General Capital. Sorry, Dustin, you were going to say something?
Go ahead.
Axel, number 1, Axel. Number 2, General Catalyst. Number 3, Andreessen Horowitz. Number 4, Tiger Global Management. Number 5, Index Ventures. Number 6, New Enterprise Associates. Number 7, Wellington Access Ventures. Number 8, Foresight Capital. Number 9, Sands Capital Alternatives. And number 10, Kleiner Perkins. Congratulations to all of the top 10. Okay, Dustin.
So
How many
know.
no's?
So how many no's? Excel, I've gotten a no from. General Catalyst, a no from. Andreessen, a no from. Tiger, a no from. Index, I don't think I've ever fully pitched. NEA, a no from. Wellington, I don't know. Foresight, I don't know. Sands, and then Kleiner and Spark, I've received a no from. So for all those founders out there, just because you hear a no doesn't mean anything.
So
Did you hear
6 out
no
of the top 11. Dustin had
during
no from.
Building Connected or
During Building Connected.
Okay. Oh,
And he's still here.
still here.
He's still here. Okay, what do we think then? Are these worthy winners? Do we want to actually, let's just recap what their scoring criteria was for this. I think I have the link somewhere. Maybe it's in this article.
It is in the
If you're speaking about venture capital firms, like top, it probably I would only guess that they are measured by the outcome, what they deliver to their limited partners. That's my guess. Will that be correct?
No.
Okay.
What? Okay, here's the methodology. What is this big? Okay, here we go. I haven't been through this properly yet, but
The percentages are there. You just went by them.
oh, here we go. Okay, Dustin, you go because you
35% is their ability to raise cash.
Wow.
35% is investment capacity, so the amount they still have to invest, and only 30% is the exit, so their ROI. So Martin, you wanting to measure return on capital is apparently not very valuable.
What is the definition of investment capacity?
Dry powder.
Patrick, do you think
They
this is
actually
a
call
fair,
it dry
weighting
powder.
criteria?
Oh, so the more you have still not invested, the better.
Yes.
Oh, that's like weird, because I guess the first one is reinforced by the exit, right? Fundraise, they can fundraise because they exited in the past, or they are just great salespeople without experience.
There's many ways to slice that onion.
I don't know. For me, it would be just one. How much did they redistribute to shareholders or limited partners?
I think if we go to the list.
Yeah, but then this list would probably look quite different. I'm guessing if that was the case.
So I'll give a couple insights on a few of these people. Like Excel is one of the premier names, been around forever, one of the oldest venture capital funds. I know some folks there, unbelievably brilliant. General Catalyst, some of the folks there, super brilliant. Andreessen, my head of data now runs their data team. Brilliant folks. They're actually quite huge though. So like I've met some people not all that impressed with. Now we get to number 4. Number 4 is awful. And I don't care if I get in trouble. Absolutely awful. They have yes, they've had some great wins, but I also measure a VC on just like, how many times have you wrote a check where I look at it and I'm like, that is lighting money on fire? like awful investments, horrible valuations. Like they put a bunch of money in construction tech. Some of me and my friends would just call them Tiger Global Specials because they put in like $60 million at a valuation that's absurd. And
Tiger Global what?
Specials.
Specials. Like the valuation is like so unbelievable. You're like, where is this from? How do you get there?
Wow.
Some of these are huge institutions where it's like NEA is enormous. So like it really matters on who you're dealing with there. So it's hard to even evaluate these. But like there is people on this list way down below that are amazing investors. And I have no idea how they're not getting to the top of the list. You got Benchmark, I think, at like 35, something 56. Like that. That's 56. That's crazy town. That is just crazy town. I mean, where's Union Square Ventures? Like
207.
They're like Fred Wilson is like the prototypical VC. Like he's insane. I've met with him, and then like, yeah, it's also like they're mixing in like Freestyle was my seed investor. So mixing in like seed investment versus like these huge institutional investments, very hard to compare those. Like it's a completely different business model. But there's some awful ones in here, just absolutely atrocious.
What would be the incentive for time? Is it not Times,
exactly.
no?
Yeah, it's Time.
And who is Time
views
as well?
on this article, right? You don't know who Time is?
Time magazine?
Yeah.
It's not Times magazine? No.
Time magazine. This could be like, probably the most famous magazine in the world.
So what would be the incentive to create it this way?
Views would be my guess. How about the top venture capital firms that are not on this list? Any thoughts?
I didn't get to go through outside the top 100. I mean, I really know a lot of seed and Series A investors. Is Homebrew on there? Type in Homebrew.
Don't think so.
See,
so Floodgate was, Homebrew is not. No.
Satya and Hunter are amazing seed investors. Absolutely awesome. But they're investing their own capital now. They don't even need to go out and raise funds. So they just lost 35%.
Yeah, of the waiting. Damn.
Yeah. It's really funny. I mean, with all of these, I know there's people that will say they've had great experiences, but I just.
Patrick, do you want to say anything about this, or are you staying clear?
I think if we were to run the analysis, this would have a 0.9, if not more, correlation with management fees and AUM. That's just, I mean, I call it factual. Fact check me if you want, but I think you will come to exactly that result. I'm not going to say how many, but if I look at the top 20, it would be a fairly large number where the institutional investors that look at us and look at these funds or are even invested in these funds have told me verbatim, your performance is so much better than them, both in terms of TVPI as well as DPI. That's something you need to understand generally about the alternative asset class that VC is. Martin, to your point, and perhaps your frustration, allocating money into VC, there's two strategies that as an allocator you can follow. And that has to do with the power law principle that we all, in the end, are living under. You can either write extremely large checks as part of an insanely large portfolio to diversify a little bit into the asset class, but you don't want to worry about it. Or you can literally hunt performance, but if you hunt performance, the checks that you can write will be very, very small. So to give you an idea, if you're an allocator at a very large pension fund, for example, you're not bothering with less than 100 million. So literally these people will tell an emerging fund manager that is, for example, currently in the third fund or the second fund, or even the first fund coming out of another fund and raising 100 because they say, hey, I worry about carry. That person will not invest in you. They won't talk to you because they say, I cannot allocate 100 million. I want maximum 10% of your fund, etc. So you need to raise at least $1 billion. On the other side, then if you want to invest in the high-performing funds, they are typically early-stage funds. And because they are early-stage fund and because they are high-performing, they are typically capital constrained. So at least below 250, typically 100 or less. So what can you allocate? 10 million or less. That's just not a game for the super large allocators. And under this whole logic, you're getting a list like this, which then correlates with, okay, a lot of capital gets consolidated or concentrated, better to say, into these super large funds. Does it make them better or worse? I agree with you. I think the best is defined by performance. But you can't also just make it about that, because quite honestly, you can have an outlier fund with pure luck. You cannot discount that early stage investors like myself, 20 to 25% of my performance in the end will also be defined by, does fate break my way over a period of 10 years? However, if you want my personal opinion, I would respect early stage investors that repeatedly perform over multiple fund generations, and also within a fund not have just one breakout success, so much more that anyone that invests after Series A and basically gets to invest in legible companies at a legible time. And unfortunately, the top of that list is very much like this. To give you an idea just how silly this list is, so Matrix on 201. I mean, if you have never talked to Matrix, that is one of the smartest software investors and infrastructure investors in the US. That is on 201. I mean, they deliver much better performance.
Isn't Founders Fund way down there as well?
Dude, Founders Fund is at 37. Founders Fund has the most awesome strategy of all the early stage VC firms that are generalists, in my opinion. That is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous to have them there. Jeff, who spun out of Founders Fund with Bedrock, 184. That is benchmark 56, and then you have a CVC here on 46, which literally invests in C and D rounds, and you're calling them number 46 on the best American VC firms. I cannot take this list seriously. I mean, there's so many great people down there that Neil from Green Oaks. Dude, if you're a marketplace and you can get around by Green Oaks, that's a unicorn maker. And they put him on 114. That guy is outperforming practically everyone above him. That's ridiculous.
I don't know about like the list in terms of like who does what exactly, but just if we look at the scoring system, it just completely doesn't make sense. If we were to compare this scoring system to, for example, top doctors, that would mean that one of the
charges
criteria,
the most for the for the surgery.
No, if you translate directly these into like a doctor world, let's say it, you would have capacity to sell to patients. That would be one of the scoring criteria. You would have money raised from the government. Okay, yeah. So like, what kind of criteria that is? It just doesn't make sense. What's the most important is like, what is the outcome that you're providing to people to giving you money, right? Which is the patients in this case, or the investors of these investors. And that's the only criteria that should be there, nothing else.
You asked who's missing. So sorry, Dustin, just to complete that question. So Addition, for example, is missing, Lee Fixel's fund. I'm co-invested with Lee Fixel. His team invested in one of my portfolio companies out of London, Speckle. That is such an amazing partner to work with. Absolutely great investors, great experience. Missing. I mean, it's hard to take seriously, this list.
I'm surprised that they even could include CVCs on this list, but I think you said something that I firmly believe in. You said, the people who historically fund over fund do very well at the seed and Series A investment rounds. Those funds, those are the greatest investors in the world, because they cannot come in at the Series B and beyond where you have a P&L that you can actually do some modeling on. Yep. They have to find, they have to evaluate on not just quantitative, but just qualitative other sorts of assets, because you don't have enough proof points to hang your hat on. You have to understand people, dynamics, markets, and cultivate teams that can grow. So those are the ones that always have inspired me.
I agree. And then let's poke real fun into that list. Nobody mentioned it, and I only just noticed. Type in Sequoia.
What?
You're making a list of the 500 or whatever best US VC firms, and Sequoia is not on your list.
I feel like the CEO of Time or whoever's running this got in a fight with the CEO of Sequoia.
Dude.
Maybe they didn't apply. Look, it says applications are a key part of the project selection process. For next year's list, the application period is
That's
basically
fine,
open
but then
spring.
don't call your list top venture capital firms. Sorry, but then you can't call it that way.
I
Then
just
say,
can't
here's
stand
a
this.
curated list, whatever. It's
You're just trying to be too honest now, Patrick. They can't.
Yeah.
Here's a funny anecdote, because Martin, you asked what is the objective here. So my parents used to have a neighbor who hung a bicycle into his tree. And one day they went to him and they said, "Hey, Max, why do you have a bicycle in your tree?" And his response was, "So that people would come and talk to me and ask me, why do I have a bicycle in my tree?" That's literally what this is,
I was
right?
thinking actually about it, that maybe the reason for the list is to make it ridiculous, so that there is self-reinforcing mechanism, so people talk about.
And here we are
list.
talking about.
Here about, yes. Again, we got caught.
All right, let's have some fun. Last 5 minutes. Top 100 podcasts of all time. Can anyone guess, actually, the number one?
I think
Joe
it's
Rogan.
Joe Rogan. That's the first one. Then the guy in the suit. What's his
Lex?
Lex? And I would say Tucker.
Too nerdy. My
and-
computer is frozen. Sorry.
Sorry, I don't know any of them because I don't listen to podcasts.
Oh.
You just make them.
Sorry, guys. I've had a technical glitch.
So I just looked up Tiger. I was remembering this. Yeah, their fund in 2022 was down 56%. Do you remember that, Patrick? It was like
I
they
do.
lost $17 billion.
Yeah, and they actually had very contentious LP meetings and LP days. Yeah, not easy. I mean, SoftBank Vision Fund. Actually, is SoftBank even on that? SoftBank's
But
probably in the US.
that was just mark to market. Like, you know that they were probably not telling the whole truth.
So it probably wasn't even that, Dustin, because a lot of the funds that are out there will actually try to any kind of trick in the book to even get a fair value revaluation. I, for example, can't do that. So I need to have all my fair values once a year audited by a Big Four. So not just the books. I'm talking about the fair values, and they are giving me a shit time. And yet the institutional investors tell me, "Hey, your performance is so much better than practically all of them in the top 20 here." So it's fairly common that, you know, you would, if you're not being fair value audited, you will stretch out as much as you can. And that's definitely what happened in 2022 to a lot of them.
To the best podcast list. It's
It's
actually
rubbish.
not in a linear order like the other one was. So there's it's in alphabetical order. So I'm afraid they do not give us the number one.
Never heard of any of them.
Acquired, I've heard.
Yeah.
And that is it.
Quiet Call Her Daddy, that one's taken off Gen Z style.
Did that say cocaine? Cocaine and rhinestones.
There you go.
Country music unplugged. Dan Carlin's Hardcore History, legendary.
No. Let's see. What does GPT say on this?
I'll keep going.
It's bullshit.
We haven't come to Joe Rogan yet.
This is alphabetical,
the question
right?
is, what are the criteria of assessing it? Because I wouldn't actually be surprised if there are certain criteria based on which these shows are
You'll have to
featured.
read it.
What would be yours?
Okay, this will go on and on. The best. I think it depends. Like I think everyone goes through phases of podcasts that they enjoy. But I think what got me and probably a lot of other people into podcasting was definitely Joe Rogan. But right now, I'm very much digging Andrew Huberman. So I go through phases of listening to him and science-backed health and tools you can use to improve your life. So that's for me. How about you, Martin?
For me, So I listen to every week I listen to All In podcast for sure. Apart from that, I recently liked and listened quite a lot of guy called, I got it somewhere as I thought you would ask me, this Taylor Avakian. He's basically interviewing real estate people in Los Angeles, so very specific to the region, and it's absolutely brilliant stories there. And yeah, I listen to a few different like shows on finance and economy, but I'm mostly likely looking for the guest I want to listen to rather than a particular shows. And wherever they are, then I just listen to it. So I'm a fanboy.
Yeah. Dustin, do you have one?
No, I don't. I wish I had more time, but I don't.
Fair enough. And Patrick, you don't listen, no?
I really don't. I don't have any.
Damn. Okay. So we wrap up. Next week, we will have Tessa from Dusty Robotics and Kevin Peterson, who's a CTO of Bedrock Robotics, who just raised a very large round. Ex-Waymo founders. So looking forward to that one.
Nice.
Cheers, guys.
All right.
Thank
Cheers.
you.